Good morning, everybody. More than 1 billion humans do not have access to a freshwater source in their everyday lives. There are 8 billion humans on our planet. If you were to tell me that every 1 in 8 humans experiences trouble finding a freshwater drinking source in their everyday life, I would describe this scenario as unsustainable. Now, another interesting stat posted by the organization UNICEF, which is responsible for helping the disadvantaged youth across the globe, stated in 2019 that every 3 out of 5 people had basic hand washing facilities across the globe in the year 2017. Now, this may not seem like a grimacing statistic, or that those two people may not be a large effect, but those two people are actually in reality millions. Now, stressors and consequences on the lifestyles of humans these ones pose serious consequences and threats to the overall well-being and success as a species. Statistics like these ones are overwhelming and ultimately lead me to think about the well-being of my own in the future for those who are around me. And this is actually why today I would actually like to talk to you guys about our role in pollution and climate change and what we can do in sorts. Science Direct coins anthropogenetic causes as a few examples. Those examples being pharmaceutical disposal, drug disposal, agricultural emissions, agricultural runoff, and then a variety of others. And here in this figure, we can actually see all of these sort of type of effects or anthropogenetic contaminants sort of coming down and being dispersed on our Earth, and then it sort of type of cascades to the right of the image, and you can kind of see us humans, and then all the biota that live with and around us in our everyday lives. These contaminants are going to affect these organisms, and we're kind of right there in the middle, you know. So if what's being degraded is if what around us is being degraded, chances are the degradation is going to seep down and eventually come back to us. So we kind of have to sort of get active in the game, you know. And this is why I want to educate you guys on the first and one of the most well-known causes of climate change and pollution is land runoff. And there are two types. Kati and Tagi established the two most causes of land runoff as agricultural runoff and natural runoff. And here in this figure, we can kind of see agricultural runoff just illustrated to the best possible way. So all these crops, all these livestocks, they need to be perfect, they need to be efficient, and they need to feed our humans. So lots of pesticides, chemicals, all sorts of type of GMOs are used on these crops to sort of kind of yield the biggest possible yield. And these chemicals are sprayed on these plants, and it rains. They need water, you know. So some of these chemicals and pesticides and such aren't ingested, and they're kind of washed away. And then you can kind of see the water here sort of type of converging on one sort of main carving through the soil, and then some of these pesticide filled water, all this nutrient rich water can actually seep downwards into groundwater, and it can also find its way to a larger body of water and kind of degrade water quality that way. Next, we actually see we see agricultural runoff, but they're pretty similar concepts. It's the same concept that water sort of runs across a surface, and it collects a sort of type of contaminating ion or substance. And in the case of natural runoff, it's a natural deposit source of materials such as iron or silicon or an ion that can contribute to the change in water quality or environmental quality. Next, the next concept I'd like to talk to you guys about is the increase of greenhouse gases. First off, I'd like to talk to you guys on, I'd like to educate you guys on the actual concept of the greenhouse gas effect. Now, the greenhouse gas effect is extremely valuable. It's useful. It's normal to be most important. It's normal. And ultimately it's responsible for the possibility of life being on Earth. And I'm going to kind of illustrate this greenhouse gas effect very, very quickly in an elementary fashion. So the sun emits photon energy, and this is responsible for warming our Earth and sustaining life. So you can see in this first, in the middle of the screen, we see this big arrow, this big photon energy coming down and hitting the Earth. And there's plenty of pathways this energy can then follow. It can be absorbed into water, it can be absorbed into snow, it can be absorbed into the earth, or it's emitted back through up into the atmosphere. And just like coming down on its way out, it can get trapped in the layers of the atmosphere and kind of bounce in between, type of warming up in between those two layers nonstop until it's eventually degraded. So it can either get trapped in atmospheric levels, it can be absorbed by some sort of environment on the Earth, or it can be sent right back out into the atmosphere. So this is a sort of type of the act of greenhouse gases being trapped and sent back and forth in between our atmosphere. And an interesting idea of how our atmosphere actually warms is this is a really good illustration. Down here in the right corner of the image, we see a sort of type of city built on our Earth, and you can kind of see those greenhouse gases being emitted up into the atmosphere, and they're not necessarily strong enough or potent enough or well enough to penetrate out through the atmosphere, so it gets trapped. And it accumulates. You can kind of see like the smog, that dark brown or dark blue smoke sort of type of overwhelming and kind of looking like the largest section in the atmosphere. And this is the greenhouse gas effect kind of increasing, leading to global warming. So regarding the greenhouse gas effect, I'd like to talk to you guys a little about on how these greenhouse gases are actually emitted. So Pearson Education states that what's arguably the most well-known and important greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide. And in this first image, we can see carbon dioxide, its structural formula. CO2 is very efficient in warming our Earth and allowing life to be sustainable. It has a 60-day lifetime, and it's pretty easily recycled and cleaned up. Next, we have methane. This is my favorite one. Methane is produced from anoxic decomposition of organic matter or matter like vegetation, food, things that can be decomposed. Another form of emission of methane is actually the agricultural emission of flatulence, or in other words, cow farts and cow burps. And this is incredible because the fact that we have so many cows that this is one of the leading emissions of the warming of our Earth, it's pretty illustrating of how big our requirement of food production is. Next greenhouse gas is ozone. Ozone is pretty well known. It is responsible for allowing life to be possible. It is responsible for absorbing ultraviolet radiation, which is very detrimental to the human health. And it's commonly emitted from aerosols like spray cans and stuff, you know. Next, we have nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is very well known as laughing gas, commonly found in dentist offices. This one is pretty interesting because it has a very relatively similar lifetime to CO2, although it's almost 300 times more potent in the absorption of energy, so it can really warm things up if it needs to. Global warming and climate change is responsible for incredible detrimental natural disasters and even the long-term degradation of habitats. Some of these effects can be seen as devastating wildfires in the United States that are happening right now. We have prolonged droughts. Humans don't have fresh water in their everyday life. This is we can't even fathom that. It's so far off. We have other things such as natural tropical storms that are just destroying and abusing cities along coasts, and even then, right now, we see those affecting humans all across the world. The International Panel of Climate Change, basically the world coming together and establishing our current place in climate change and global warming, states that human activities have warmed the global average temperature by 4 degrees Fahrenheit since pre-industrialization, before the pre-industrial time period. And by 2100, we're supposed to have warmed the globe by 4 degrees Fahrenheit, or 7 degrees, from 4 degrees to 7 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, this increase is this size of increase has been determined to be alongside extra huge extinction events of incredibly normal species. Um, the competition, the worldwide competition of human resources. That means humans are going to be competing for water and land and other sorts of type of natural resources. And finally, just an uninhabitable future. When humans are fighting for land and water and food, it's going to be a slippery slope. Now, I know these statistics and outlooks are pretty grimacing and not relatively promising, but in Climate Interactive, you can actually sort of illustrate our future. And in this image, we can kind of see our right now future going on. We can see the temperature warming up by 7 degrees Fahrenheit here in the right side of the image by 2100, or 4 degrees Celsius. Now, if we change our ways of human behavior and lifestyles, as they're illustrated here in that first top left graph, if we kind of hone those down, like we see in the second graph here, we can actually flatten that curve out and actually create a sustainable environment and Earth for those who are going to come in the future. I would love to answer any questions that you guys have formed on our role in climate change and the environment and what we can do. Thank you guys so much for learning, and I appreciate your time. Have a fantastic day. Thank you so much.